No two births are the same. We know that. After all, every individual is different, and therefore their entry into the world is going to be different. But what if the difference is having your first baby at 25 weeks and starting their life in the neonatal intensive care unit, and your second baby goes to full term? How would you cope? Intrigued to know? Well, sit back, relax, and listen to find out. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. During this podcast series, I will be interviewing 6 awesome women who will be sharing with us their mum story. My guest today is Hazel Weyman. Thank you, Hazel, for joining me today.
Thank you. Nice.
So, here is the first question. Who is Hazel?
That's the one question that was really hard to think about. So I think she isn't one person, just because I evolve. When I think now I've got 2 kids, I'm different to who I was when it was just the one, and pre-kids, a completely different person. So I don't think there's an answer to that, because I think we change all the time, don't we, depending on our situations.
So talk me through then who you were and how you have become the person you are today.
Okay, so I guess like teenage, early 20s, pre-children, I was really fiercely independent, which a lot of my friends would say I still am, but the independence kind of has waned because there's these 2 little people that want to be attached or nearby. So I liked a lot of solitude. Like, I haven't got brothers and sisters, so I grew up by myself. I was quite happy in my own company, and I liked socializing. I liked being around people, but I also loved time on my own. And I think since having a partner and then having children, that's probably the hardest thing, losing that complete solitude. I actually really miss it. So yeah, that's one of the biggest changes. I think when I was on my own, I used to think, oh, I want it to be really busy. And now it's really busy. I'm like, I quite miss living in a flat by myself and having evenings where I was on my own. So that's why I feel like it's an ever changing picture, really.
And do you ever get that time? Do you ever find that you can have some solitude? I know obviously your youngest is 13 months. Do you get that space?
Occasionally, because we've got the horses, so that used to be, even when my eldest was small, that was my me time. Going away and doing the horses was my time on my own, which is still not completely time on my own, because he lives somewhere where there's other people and other animals, so you couldn't guarantee the solitude, but it was more solitude than having children at your feet. But then I got my eldest a pony, so that, because I thought it'd be a nice thing to share together, and then realized, hang on, I've just given up my me time because now I have to share it. So I still get to sneak off. My partner and me are very good at trying to give each other time on our own, but these days, even when you're on your own, you're not really just pleasing yourself. You're trying to catch up with all the stuff you can't do when the littlies are around. So it's rare to get it like it was before, where you could just sit and guilt-free, just do what pleased you. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a recurring theme of, on one hand, it's making that space for yourself and trying to be okay with it and not attaching guilt to it. And at the same time, also, enjoying being with your family and not having the monkey mind waffling on, going, oh, well, there's this to do and there's the other thing to do. And, oh, and did you manage to do that other thing? And I think it takes a lot of practice, and maybe it is always practicing it, and we never get to a point of, yep, we've got it sorted, because life is continuously changing.
Yeah, it's like I think in like when you were saying that, when it was just me on my own, all I had to write in my diary was my own commitments, and I found it quite easy. Like my other half used to say, "You remember everything," because I only had one person's itinerary in my head. Well, now there's four of us because he doesn't remember his own itinerary, and if I don't know where he is, I can't slot in everybody else's. So yeah, your mind's just really full. And like now, when someone asks me a date of birth or do you have allergies, I really struggle to answer the question because I'm like, hang on, who am I answering for here? Which date of birth do I need? Mine's probably the trickiest. I've completely lost track of that one.
So let's take it right back, because obviously your life has changed from before you became a mum. So describe to us your mum journey from obviously Hazel, who was a veterinary nurse, to where you are today.
Yeah. So I don't yeah, I met my partner and I hadn't really thought about having children at all before I met him. Not really. Like no, not not in a proper way. I think all people consider, everyone knows it's a possibility, but I don't know, I didn't feel in that space. And then I met him and he grew up, well, he's farming, so his farm is near where I grew up. But when we met, I lived further away. I'd moved away. So I ended up coming back to where I grew up to be with him. And it just kind of made sense. But our eldest gave us a rather rude introduction to parenting because she was a extreme micro preemie. So she was born at 25 weeks gestation by an hour and a half on the clock, which is very important because in medical law, the Hippocratic Oath changes at 25 weeks. So if she hadn't waited, they could have made different decisions. And she only weighed 425 grams, which is a bit less than your standard bottle of water that you buy in the shop, like the bag size one. So yeah, we didn't know how to be parents, and then we were in like neonatal intensive care with her for 4 months. So yeah, I think 20 weeks, slightly over 4 months, and came home with a baby with oxygen lines and medication. And we did lockdown before lockdown was a thing, because we were told do not give this child a respiratory illness such as the common cold, otherwise all the hard work will go down the drain. So yeah, and before she was born, the pregnancy wasn't going smoothly, so it was quite a weird. It wasn't that let's have a baby, oh look, you look beautiful, have a baby shower, everyone buys you presents. It was like everyone, we didn't tell people. Most people found out I was pregnant after she was born and all that kind of thing, because we just didn't get to breathe and enjoy it. And my partner nicknamed it parenting light because we slept in NICU once with her when she was really ill, but other than that, they tried to get you to go home every night. So we didn't do nights with a newborn. So then we got over all the trauma of that. She is now able-bodied, fully healthy, no long-term health conditions, which is unbelievable. And people that meet her now, and I tell them where she started from, they're like, no, that's not possible. She should be really unwell. It's like, no, not at all. And then, yeah, fate decided we had to wait a while before mini one came along, and that I was looked after quite tightly. So she got to stay in and I got to experience him being enormous and not being able to move and not being able to sleep. And then she had to have a little bit of drama, so she put me through a C-section, and then she came straight home with us. And my partner was like, wow, this is different. I didn't think it would be like this, when she wouldn't sleep and she wouldn't be put down. And I was like, well, what did you think was going to happen? He's like, I don't know. So we did get to experience the more normal this time round, or the more traditional this time round. And it's different. And it's like the first time you can sort of sleep when they're asleep and stuff. This time we were like, oh, we've got to get up and do the school run, whether we like it or not. That's not so much fun, is it? But yeah, we're 2 and done. There's no more. We're
You're where
happy
I'm
now.
at.
Yeah. I mean, I always said I wanted 2 or none when we did start talking about it, because I didn't like being an only child. Although I liked time on my own, there was things I didn't like about it, and I didn't wish it on them, especially when my dad got older, because having to take on that care and responsibility by myself was a big weight. And I just thought, well, I wouldn't wish that on somebody else. So yeah, and they love each other, even with a big age gap. They act, because I thought, oh, they won't play together and things, but they do. And the oldest one is more interested in the baby toys, because she's had Christmas and birthday really close together, the baby. So the oldest one is playing with all the baby toys, and I'm like, can we get rid of the grown-up toys and just wait till the little one needs them? And she's like, no, but you're not touching them. You could save so much space.
Do you know what? That's not unusual. It's the same with, although obviously there's a smaller gap with mine, but even when we go to people's houses where the children are younger, they're fascinated by the toys that are, like you said, of a younger age. And I think it's because it's not so much that the toys are a younger age, they're different. So it's their natural curiosity that they're able to like play with something that's different that they're not used to.
Yeah. It's not the wallpaper that's always there, that's their toys. And they're like, yeah, but I know that's there. This isn't mine. This is far more exciting.
Exactly. So did you prepare yourself for Verity coming along in a different way, or did you just go with the flow?
I'm not sure. I mean, with Tabby, it was very much every day counted, and every day I could keep her in my belly. Brilliant. I definitely found it different when Verity was quite clearly staying put and happy where she was. It was a lot more tiring, and because I was classed as high risk at the hospital, we talked to them. There was a bit more anxiety around the giving birth. I kind of blocked that out, because with Tabby it happened so fast. There was no choice, like no time to think about it, no choice, no medical intervention. I just got to get on with it, which was great. And that's what I wanted the second time, but that's not what happened. In hindsight, I possibly shouldn't have asked to be induced, but we discussed it and I wanted some control, because there was no control with Tabby. I just wanted to know when the baby was going to come, and I was worried I'd go in too tired to cope with it if I just waited and went overdue. In hindsight, possibly should have let Verity make the decision, but yeah, there was a bit of anxiety around the giving birth bit, because I was like, she's bigger, it's not going to happen as quickly, it's not going to be as, like, I really didn't want the C-section, but we got through it. So
And
yeah.
I think when you do have time to think about, I'm going to say it, the output, because my children now they're 8 and 10, and they ask me, what's a mummy? How does a baby come into this world, as in, exit route? And even they're going, but that's not possible. How, the sizes don't compute. And that gets me thinking back to like when I gave birth, and I can remember sitting there going, oh geez, the body's gonna have to expand, and you just have to distract yourself from the inevitable, because I think if you start thinking about it too much, you end up going, why did we decide to have a baby? It's going to
Yeah,
come out, it's going to be painful. I mean,
there
I
was a
know the
little,
rest of it's nice, but
yeah, there was a little bit of that at times, like, why are we doing this again? And I think me and my other half, if they'd offered to put him on the table next to me while I was having the section and make sure there was no more, I think he'd be like, yeah, that's fine, we're not doing this again. Bless him, he was traumatized by the whole C-section thing because he knew I didn't feel comfortable. Like, he knew that was a fear of mine, and he just felt like there was nothing he could do. Yeah. So, but we got through, and I think it all, whatever route babies come into the world, it all just happens, and they take control of the situation, and you just got to work with what you got, haven't you?
You do. I totally agree. So you've clearly had two very different experiences. So I'm going to ask you this one question, but I want you to answer it based on do the first experience and then the second experience. So if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what would you say to yourself before you had Tabby? And then what would you say to yourself before you had Verity?
Well, I think from Tabby, it's don't make a plan of what you want because the baby leads the way. And that's what with both of them. But definitely with Tabby, like even what the doctors decided, she ripped up their timeline and threw it back at them. And with Verity, I think it's the jump from 1 to 2 is unimaginable. Like we thought, oh, we know how to we've raised one child. Look, we've got one. She's here. We know what we're doing. But it doesn't matter. They're not the same. Like, even though you think, well, but because we've had Tabby slept in her own cot, she was fine with that as long as we were close by. Verity's like very much, no, I am co-sleeping. You are not getting rid of me. I don't even think you're going to be able to sleep in your own bed without me. And we didn't really do anything to encourage her. It's just what she needed. So you don't really learn from the first one much transferable skill because they're different.
And I think I hear this so many times from mums, and obviously from my own experience as well. And it's funny, isn't it, that people are always asking for advice. I say people, usually mums, about, raising children. But you've hit the nail on the head. They are so different. There are no two children the same. Even my sister who has twins, they're not the same. They might have been born on the same day, but they are not the same. And it doesn't matter how much experience you've had. That is the constant. I think the more children you had, the more you sort of just go, do you know what? They're going to be different. We'll just go with it. But they are different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the foods you try with the first one, and then you think, oh, well, the first one like this, I'll try the second one with it. No. So, yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
So thinking back to when you had Tabby, and she's obviously very poorly, and there will be mums who are listening to this who have had a similar experience to you, or may actually be going through that experience right now. What would you say to them?
Don't look at the monitors, which anyone who's been there or is there will know what I mean. So it can be quite easy to look at all the medical kit and the numbers. Look at the little person in front of you. Listen to the baby. If they ask you to get involved, do it, because you don't know what tomorrow is. So we had a situation, I think she was 3 days old, and they said, oh, do you want to hold her? And I was like, no, she's doing well, and she's very temperamental, so let's just leave her safe in her little box. And then she got poorly, which, like, that's part of the journey with a baby like that. And I had to wait another 10 days till I could actually hold her. And I was scared on that day 3 and thought it was just pushing my luck to say yes. But the doctor wouldn't have offered if she didn't think it was a potential, and they can change it as quickly as they want to. So yeah, get hands on if you can, because they also grow up so quick, even when they're poorly. So yeah, just be there.
So lots of people will have given you advice on your journey of being a mum. So I'm going to ask you, what's the best piece of advice anyone has given you about being a mum?
Yeah, at the minute, with like Verity's thing, I've had more unsolicited advice than I've had helpful. But when I really thought about it, I suppose it's you've got to do what works for you and your family, not what everyone else is telling you to do. Because when I've been talking about people that have said things to me, and I'm like, I didn't, yeah, unsolicited advice, and then you find the people that get you or get where you are, and they just say you've got to do what works for you, like the co-sleeping and things. We don't have a choice in that situation, and no, I'd much rather she was happy sleeping in her own thing and I got a bit more sleep, but it's better to get 4 hours slightly broken sleep than no hours of sleep, and she doesn't understand, so why go through the upset?
That is a great piece of advice, Hazel. It is, because I think as mums, we worry a lot about judgment, people thinking, well, what does everybody think of how I'm being a mum? When actually we're the best placed person to know how to be mum, because we know our unit, we know our children, even if we doubt ourselves. So I think that is awesome advice. And I think a lot of mums will have wished that somebody would have given them that piece of advice before they became a mum.
Still easy to end, like, I'm not saying I've cracked following it. It's still like you say, you end up saying, oh, I do this because you end up feeling like you justify yourself when someone sees you do something, and they don't know. Half the time, they're not even asking you to justify it, are they? It's just the way a human brain works, I think.
So, what 3 things do you wish you knew before you became a mum?
We sort of talked about this before we started, that repeating yourself is just going to be part of your life and you're going to have to learn to deal with it, because I find that really hard. Talking to my mum's not around, but talking to my godmother, apparently as a child I wasn't like that, which is quite unusual. So I find it really alien. It really infuriates me. So I wish I'd known how to get comfortable with that before I was in this situation. Um, what else do I wish I knew? I kind of wish there was an exam to see whether you have the patience involved, like to at least warn you. Um, and yeah, I don't know, because I think even if I'd sat and spoken to someone who had kids, like you said, we've said they're all different, so it wouldn't have prepared me, because you don't know what your children are going to be like till you get there. And yeah, I think I can't think of a third one. I think that's
All right, that's all right. When you
um,
said about sitting an exam to just check that you've got enough patience, I remember a while ago I saw a clip on YouTube, and it was an American clip, and they advertised a job, but they didn't put the job title, and the job was being mum. And just to watch this video where they put the job advert out and then they were interviewing potential candidates who were just like regular people. It wasn't set up as far as they then had actors pretending to be the interviewee. These were real people. And just the whole thing of, without them saying the word baby or you're a parent or you're looking after someone, and how things like, well, whenever the client is awake, you will be with them all the time, even if that's 24/7, as an example. And I know there was a bit where they talked about you get paid no money, and people are like, hang on a second, what do you mean there's no salary attached to this job? And then the latter end of the video clip, they then said to the interviewees, we've just been interviewing you for the job of mum. And you can see how the penny drops. And then they're asked, how do you feel about what you've just gone through? And they're reflecting on what their mums went through to raise them. And do you know what? It made me cry, because they then realised what sacrifices mums have in being mum. And we don't go into it wanting to be a martyr, you know, we don't go into it, but we just do things for our children and we don't think about it. The thing that's driving us, if we want our children to be happy and we want them to have the best life they can have, and so we just do what needs to be done.
Yeah, my dinner gets eaten partially cold most nights, because if I don't carry on feeding the baby, she stops and she loses interest. So it's like, right, well, she's eating, so she keeps going. Oh, mine's kind of gone now. And yesterday, taking Tabby to a rugby match, it was, right, she needs to be warm enough. She needs this. The baby needs to be warm enough. Oh, we need to go now. I ain't got time to look for my gloves. And like you say, it's just what we do, isn't it?
It is just what we do. I like that as a phrase. It's just, I might have this episode titled, "It's Just What We Do."
That's quite cool.
It is quite cool. So we're coming to the end of our recording together, but I have 2 questions before we finish. The first one is, what 3 things would you like everyone to take away from our conversation?
Be kinder to yourself if you're new at, well, any point in this thing, but if you're new in it or about to start on it, just get better at giving yourself some slack, because it isn't going to get necessarily easier straight away, so be all right with that. If you don't enjoy it all the time, I think that doesn't make you a bad person. Like, it can be hard, it can be frustrating when you've said the same thing every day for the last 20 months or whatever it is, but that's okay if you don't enjoy that. And you're still allowed to be a person in your own right, and that's okay too. So, like, wanting that solitude or wanting something that they're not involved in is not a bad thing.
I like that. Those are 3 great points. Thank you, Hazel. And finally, people will have been watching and listening to this and going, Hazel, she's amazing. I need to be in her world. I need to know more about Hazel. Hazel, how can people get in contact with you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook mostly as Busy Keys Virtual Assistant, and on Instagram I've got my name on the end of it as well. Yeah, because as well as having the kids, I try and run my own thing to keep my brain active.
Which is what we all need. We all need something that's not related to children to keep us going, and that's just for us.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, Hazel, for talking to me today. It's been amazing getting to know more about your mum journey.
It's been nice to talk to you. I don't think I've spoken to you since it was 2 of them, not 1.
And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What the Mum. If you enjoyed it, I've just got a little favour to ask you. Go ahead and tell all your mum friends so that more mums can share their stories of motherhood. And also, don't forget to subscribe and come and connect with me. Take care, everyone, and see you at the next episode.